Want to say that again, Kelly? See, now you're getting it, Wade. We need the ratings.
Wade.
Oh, whoa! I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
Wait,
scared
we
him.
were just
If
talking
you
about
laugh
Give the
5
headphones to the
minutes.
baby. Give the headphones to the baby. She needs to. He or she needs to hear this.
He is here. Like, I'll make this. If I only have operating with one hand right now, all right, it's a lot harder than you'd think, but we'll see. I'll last like 5 minutes and then he'll freak out and I won't be able to do anything. So
That's why I said give the headphones to him, and he'll hear the soothing sounds of us raging about cybersecurity.
all right,
Well, somebody's
Then-
got to make silly faces for the baby. Will, can you do it?
Silly face. I mean, isn't my face just silly as is? Like,
No, not with the
That's what I
beard.
keep
You're very
getting
serious.
I recommend everyone bring a chew toy to this show. I know I always have mine.
I know I was thinking kind of question for the group. Is there any finer drinkware than the 1995 Batman Forever McDonald's glasses?
How do you still have that? How is that still alive?
Those are awesome.
These things are fantastic. Like, it's got like the coins.
Yeah, I remember it.
That
I was
and,
just
like,
getting ready to
follow
say.
through for it.
That looks like an old
What are you
McDonald's
drinking?
holiday
Is
cup.
that like grape juice?
couple of
What
those.
is
Oh
happening?
no, I just got
Coffee?
like Coke in there, but it's like
Oh,
Coke.
Coke,
It's like
okay.
That's some of that purple drink.
It looks really
purple
flat
drink,
for Coke.
it probably is. I think I just found it on my desk, and it's like, it's still drinkable.
It's a couple days old. It's fine. Still the
Okay,
sugars
Alex.
in it.
Just random
I see
drink.
your mug, and I'll raise you one.
What do you got for your drinkware?
Oh,
What
no.
does that say?
The
hold
camera
on.
doesn't
Let me-
want us
let me
to
get
see.
Yeah,
Yeah, it keeps
The
moving
camera
up.
keeps moving.
I do yoga
you're
to relieve
mirrored.
stress.
You're mirrored.
Hold
You
on.
can't
I'll
read
go
it 'cause
get.
it's
Let me
mirrored.
go get a mug. I'll be right back.
Oh boy. Or he feels left out.
No.
Kelly, go into this in the gear settings and turn off your video mirroring.
In the gear settings, in the
Yes.
restream.
Correct. Oh, are we on? Oh, somehow we're stuck on 720.
Oh, okay. Here, I
And
think
won't
I
let me
fixed
change
it.
now.
Yeah, you fixed it. There you
Better?
go.
Oh, let me go full
Yep.
screen. There we go. Now we can read it. There we go.
Yes. I drink wine in yoga pants. So, like I was saying before, appropriate uniform for this this show. It's not just you got to wear the full outfit, the yoga pants, shorts, pants, that sort of thing.
Corey doesn't even wear pants in for these.
What does Corey say?
Oh my.
He's got one of the special editions.
The special edition. That's
Oh.
What year
You have
is
to
that, Corey?
collect a lot of cult points to redeem that one from Ian.
I'm gonna have to reach out to him and have a talk. Oh.
If you're on the podcast, you should have enough points to redeem BHIS points.
I redeemed
I don't
all
even
mine
have
for
that
baby
mug.
swag.
That's fair. That's a good.
although
choice.
now Kelly brought up, like, we need like under.
Yeah, try and dance around that one, Alex.
Under and
Oh,
then
yeah.
bleed.
He has a sensor.
Breaking
it's actually
news.
a feature. Like basically, if
Oh.
he starts to talk about anything, he's able to be censored. Like someone could just has a beep button.
My
Squirrel?
automation was starting to try to talk to me, and I'm like, shut up.
Alexa,
That's why I
set
had
an
to,
alarm
like,
for 3 a.m.
Yeah. No, but now we need to we need the
Whoops.
we need the things from like the waist down for BHIS.
Sorry, Derek.
Like, if that's going to be the uniform, like it's
A nice
pants
skirt
going
for
or
ya?
something.
Are
yeah.
you a long skirt or a
Kilt.
mini skirt?
It's called a kilt.
Kilt.
It's a
Yeah,
kilt.
kilt would be awesome. Kilt would be
yes.
awesome.
Roll the finger.
All right. Ready?
Did anyone
We
read
ran
the
out of
news?
pre-show,
I didn't-
apparently.
I don't even know.
No, none of us read it.
happened.
Don't
I read, like,
worry.
2
It'll be fine.
articles,
No
so
one
I
ever
guess-
reads it.
Yeah.
Whoa,
usually
hi,
read
Derek.
Derek, say something so we know we can hear you.
Something.
Oh, that's good. All right, let's roll a figure.
I didn't read. Was there? I never read the article.
You didn't do your homework, Derek? All right.
No.
One demerit for you. That's actually one BHIS point off your record.
Mm.
You're
I got
one away
some
from the.
bank.
Hi,
What?
and welcome to
No.
BHIS talking
Ryan,
about the
Ryan,
news. What?
Ryan,
No,
Ryan,
it's cool. It's
you
fine. I'm already here.
You can't hit him.
My
with
name's
that.
Wade Wells. I'm actually giving a talk Wednesday if you want to sign up. Self-promotion right off the bat. Who cares about the news? There's a baby here.
Very good. Very good.
Ryan is savage. Oh my goodness. Welcome to Black Hills Information Security talking about news. Today we got BlackCat, we got Fancy Bear, all kinds of animals and their associated adjectives. So here's our cast of characters. We've got Fat Man Will using no green screen, even though he has a green screen.
I don't know what happened to it. It disappeared.
We have Alex, who painted a green screen and then put a creepy mannequin in front of it.
It's not creepy. You're gonna hurt his feelings.
He
even
doesn't
raising his hand to wave to you today. Like that's just
okay. All right, he's looking at me with one eyebrow up, so I just assumed he was judging.
the
me.
eyebrows
That's
on
my
that are
bad.
weird. You can rip into those. That's fine.
Just the eyebrows, though. Everything else completely normal.
Yeah.
We've got Kelly with like 1,000 books or possibly board games. I can't tell, but I'm assuming it's a mixture of both.
Books.
And a octopus. And then we've got Wade with a baby. You already saw him. Feet.
Yep.
This is the youngest so far guest on the news that I know of.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're totally right.
Ooh, breaking records.
We're breaking records at 4 months. If I disappear, something happened and I had to change a diaper. So it most likely will happen. It's about that.
Gotcha.
You're not that old, Wade.
I'm old. I'm pretty old.
No, you're too young for Depends.
Ah!
And then we've got Derek sitting in a dark room, just hiding from the world. He's afraid that all of his angry customers are going to find him, possibly.
I don't have any angry customers so far this week.
This week.
So far, it's still early.
Monday.
So check in.
You
on
have
Thursday.
time. You have time. Yeah, John apparently won't be making it. He said he injured himself in a drill accident. He seems fine, though, so don't worry about it. I told him to just tell everyone that he got into a fight with a vendor after the Snake Oil conference, but he didn't think that was a good idea. All right, let's get into it.
Anyway.
Let's talk about, okay, so do you want to go the route of follow-up, or do you want to go the route of new bad things?
Kelly is ready for some follow-up, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks,
there was
Ryan.
some good stuff in there.
So we were talking a lot last week about water utilities, and I just wanted to follow up on a couple things that came up last week. So we had John with us last week, and he asked me a question that I didn't have the answer to, but I do today. And that question was, are there any water regulations, or are water utilities regulated in any way? There's actually a couple different regulations, and I wanted to share those with you. The first one is there's the American Water Infrastructure Act of 2018. It does require water systems serving over 3,300 people to assess the risk of their computer systems. So there is actually something on the books. And also the EPA released a memo in March of 2023 asking to ramp up cyber regulations. So what does that all mean?
So wait, when you say assess the risk, can I just write on a piece of paper that says we assess the risk and everything's fine? Or like, is there any does it have any definitions of like a pen test or on paper? Because I know with like NERCSIP, there's some stuff that's like on paper assessments are okay, and there's some stuff that's actually requires out third party testing. Or
if I put it on a POAM until 2030, does that work?
Derek, what's a POAM again?
There's an acronym I have not heard in a long time.
Milestone.
Well, Corey, that's a great question. It looks to be more of a paper exercise. The water utilities have to do a survey, and on the survey, they just have to note that they've assessed their systems for cybersecurity. But don't panic. There is an option. And that was the other thing I wanted to bring up on the news today. For those of you who aren't familiar with our friends over at Dragos, they are amazing ICS people. And they actually have a program, a community support program for water utilities, utility companies that don't necessarily have the resources to assess and secure their systems. So if you are working for a utility company, a small one, a small municipality, go over to Dragos. They're a great resources over on their website.
So okay, they definitely listen to the podcast, right?
I was
That's why
about
they
to
did
say,
all
did we
this?
get sponsored? Did we get sponsored?
That's what happened. That's what happened. They listened to the podcast. They're like, okay, we're going to spend $100 million. Oh wait, no, that number is not related to how much they're spending. Darn. So yeah, the apparently the bar is you have to make less than $100 million in revenue. Is that a high bar? That seems like a ridiculously low bar. How many water districts are making more than $100 million?
Probably like just all the large cities, right? Are only making that much. I would think like
How much is?
most
Yeah, I
mom
guess
and pop,
doing the
like-
math, like it is revenue. So okay, so I mean, what is the average water bill? Is what, like $200 a month times? That's, I guess I could.
I just paid my water bill today. It was $60. No, for $48 today.
For one time, my parents, their water bill gets paid once every 6 months. And when I was 21, my dad asked me to pay it just for fun. And I was like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll get it. Cause I had to stay with them for a little bit. And I, not knowing that, that it was once every 6 months, the water bill was $500.
That's pretty cheap.
But
That's
this
really
was,
cheap.
That's cheap. But this was also like 2008. And I was that like took my whole paycheck. And I
You
didn't
lost a
realize
lot on the you
Yeah.
know, stock market
it.
and
Oh,
investment
back then, man,
properties.
you don't even want to know.
So
I didn't
yeah, I mean,
invest in Bitcoin, sadly.
either way, I'm assuming this would cover most water districts, and they're probably doing it because they don't want some massively huge water district to just take advantage of the program. But they don't seem to give any like numbers on how many water districts would or wouldn't be covered by this. I'm guessing it's most of them. $100 million is a lot of money. So yeah, that's awesome. Good job. We also have our cybersecurity card game, Backdoors and Breaches, where we have a deck specifically for OT and ICS that we did with Dragos. So they're kind of friends and community members. And they definitely listen to the podcast. I'm going to tell myself that they do. And that's where they got this idea. And they somehow just spun it up in like 6 days.
I
Definitely.
believe it. I definitely
It's
believe
possible. So now that we've talked about something good, let's talk about lots of terrible things. Like, I mean, BlackCat, I feel like BlackCat is just destroying everyone right now. Is it just me?
I'd agree with that. It
So
seems
basically-
like they're staking claim to everything.
Yeah, so this article is titled BlackCat Ransomware Crims, which I guess that's short for criminals. You just can't type those extra words. Threatened to directly extort victims' customers. So essentially, this centers from an accounting firm, Tipalti, who is essentially, I read it as ransomware gonna ransomware. They're trying to find new ways to extort their victims. So basically, going direct would be, in the example of like a breach, you go after, like, this is an accounting firm or an accounting software firm, right? So they probably have customers in the, all over the world, all over different spaces. Instead of making Tipalti or however you say it, disclose the breach themselves, they would just go after each customer and say, if you don't want us to disclose your data from Tipalti, then you have to pay us as well. So how would you feel if you got an email that was like, Quicken Loans is being ransomed, you have to pay us to not have your data, or whatever, I don't know, to pick a company. I don't particularly know Tipalti, but
Corey, that's a big deal. Think about your accountant. They've got your bank accounts. They've got your, they'll submit your IRS forms for you. They may have access to your, actually log into your bank accounts. So that would actually frighten me quite a bit.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I honestly wonder like how this would be covered by cyber insurance as well. Like if you go to claim your cyber insurance for like, we weren't breached, but one of our vendors was breached, can we still cash in? I feel like probably most providers would say no, but maybe that's not true. I'm not a cyber insurance expert, but just something to think about. I feel like this is a logical next step, right? It's like they are trying to do everything they can to get paid. They expand from one company that was breached to that might or might not pay to potentially thousands or hundreds of companies, some of which are probably going to say our data in this product is sensitive enough that we will consider paying or that we will pay. So I guess we'll see if it works. Hopefully it doesn't, but I just feel like BlackCat is really taking over the world right now. Going after SEC filings, going after, like, they're really just pushing on all boundaries and just being really, really aggressive. So
Yeah, and I saw something like pop out at me, and like that third paragraph is just a tactic. Is that it says though their chances are slim based on, and then you skip to the end, like an evaluation of its internal discussions. So again, a reminder that it's like BlackCat is beating up everybody, and they're sitting there on your Teams calls, in your emails, so they're reading the internal discussions that they're having in response.
yeah, the first thing they're going to do is Control F cyber insurance policy limits, and then whatever the limit is, that's going to be how much they demand. So I've actually been telling customers, go make a document in your SharePoint that says cyber insurance limits, make it visible to anyone, and make anyone that views it now an insider threat and have an alert. Like that is a great opportunity for a honey doc.
Like, yeah, honey policies. Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Do it.
Do we have to sign off that we actually read that policy?
If
you want your account to be disabled, yes.
No, you just need to sign off with the honey HR or the honey legal. Like you start building, you just make it fake from top down.
Nice. Then the ransom demands go to the honey account, and then the ransom demands account gets blocked, and then you can't see the ransom demands, and then you can't get ransomwared. It's like you can't. It's like the speak no evil, see no evil security strategy. I don't know if that's going to work. Just put your head in the sand, and we didn't get hacked. We didn't get any emails. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it's like internal comms being watched by the threat actors. There's likely to be some solution to that. So if one of those genius companies are listening to our podcast and want to drop something over the next week saying, hey, here's some good solutions for internal comms, love to hear it.
So someone asked, Brian did, he asked, is BlackCat attacking LV? My understanding is, and someone that has more CTI knowledge could definitely expand on this, but my understanding is that LV is sort of the parent organization and it has products like ransomware as a service available. Think of it like LV is the main provider, like the Cisco, and then BlackCat is like a provider, like one of their main trusted partners, like a VAR for Cisco, I guess, to use like security security analogies. Basically, BlackCat utilizes the LV ransomware. Is that correct, or do I have it backwards? I think that's right.
Everything I'm reading to me says they're either working together or they are the same company with two different names, or same group with two different names.
Gotcha.
It's one of those two scenarios going on there.
Yeah, I think they're basically the same. I think LV is sort of the parent organization. They have, and there's also Scattered Spider and Octo Tempest, and they're all the same. Like they use the same ransomware programs and all that stuff. To sort of wrap up this article, though, if anyone's not terrified of this, Tipalti's clients include Roblox, Twitch, Discord. Hey, Discord, what's up? Canva, GoDaddy, and Twitter or X. So.
There's a lot of big names hit by that.
Yeah, it's like we might not have heard of it, but it's, it's accounting software, right? So as Kelly said, there's all kinds of potentially sensitive data, right? I will say that most businesses do pretty tightly control their financial data. So it's possible that the attackers say they've exfiltrated 265 gigabytes of data, which could be a ton, could be nothing. As someone who's looked through a lot of ransomware data sets, it can be total garbage or it can be gold. There's really no way to predict. Sometimes they just found some random database of like a CRM type of thing or some loyalty database that isn't really that valuable. Other times they found, the crown jewels. It kind of just depends on where they got into the network, what they could see from there, and what the policies were. And also, since it's a third-party software, how much data is actually logged back to Tipalti? It might be mostly on-prem for some customers or all cloud. Who knows?
We got some things in chat. Somebody said Wikipedia, greatest source out there.
BlackCat I looked it up on Wikipedia.
Also known as Alpha V and Novarus. So
yeah, they're like
I don't know
the same,
how much
but
is that in that one?
Yeah, I mean it's also tough because I'm sure, as Derek knows, when these threat actors are being tracked, they just spin up a new identifier for a threat actor, and then later they'll tie it into like a known previous one, right? Like it's not like they're gonna. The first step of IR isn't, okay, figure out who hacked us. So
Yeah,
it might take time for.
In fact, that I don't know, that falls in way after lessons learned, right? Like
Right.
as an incident responder, I don't know that I really care so much, other than to know like maybe what else might have been done in the environment, but.
Or if there's like
Normally-
a decryptor, like if you got hit by an older crypto ransomware, maybe
Yeah.
there is like a decryptor for it or something. But yeah, these groups, I would call them like pseudo pen testing type groups. Like they seem to have similar tradecraft and knowledge of like a modern pen testing firm, which makes them much scarier. We saw the same thing with Scattered Spider, and so yeah, it's like they really do like get into Teams chats, get into emails, and just kind of get situational awareness and all that stuff. So, yeah, really scary. But we'll see how that pans out.
A lot of people saying there's whispers they might be shut down now. A couple days ago.
Well, yeah. So I did see. I think we talked about some raids or things that happened, but yeah. I mean, as far as we know, they're still active. I mean,
right. An organization like that too, you're never going to catch everybody in it.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we can just keep going down the bad route. Apparently Fancy Bear is back or is still here. Which Fancy Bear, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that knows, is like a Russian, basically attributed to be the main like Russian threat actor of like the government backed hackers. They're going after basically US and European based organizations. They're trying to exploit basically two main flaws: the Microsoft Outlook privilege elevation and WinRare remote code execution. I think we talked about the WinRare one on the show. I don't know if we talked about the Outlook one. Does anyone know the Outlook one off the top of their head? CVE 2023-23397. This is Outlook? That number sounds familiar.
Yeah, that's the Outlook elevation privilege.
So I guess, if you're being phished, definitely patch your WinRare, patch your Outlook, as if you weren't already doing that. The Outlook bug. I mean, it's great because this is how we, this is how we drive impact down to our customers by saying, hey, you need to fix this. These bugs were patched in March. So like if you've been updating your Windows or rebooting your Windows since March, you probably are fine.
Yeah, a WinRAR vulnerability. I think WinRAR is something I would not allow to run in my enterprise environment. There's probably no good reason for...
No, we paid for the license. We paid for the license. We were the first people ever to pay for it. Yes. So I'm actually, the reason the number sounded familiar to me, by the way, and I see people in chat talking about it, was because that 23397 was one thing that we had tried hitting all of our customers with, and it didn't work anywhere because by the time we got around to it, it was blocked everywhere. So like, I don't know how they're possibly, I don't know if this is just a news article based on, hey, we saw indicators, or whether this is working. Like, it is totally possible that Russia has no clue what they're doing and just haven't been able to access the internet since March. So they're like, this is the latest Microsoft flaw. And it's like from March and it's already patched. I was never able to successfully exploit that 23397. Like I tried. By the time I even got to it, which was like 3 days after the disclosure, they were blocking it outbound on tenants. So if you register an Office 365 tenant and send it, it doesn't work. They're blocking it inbound on tenants. So even if it came from another source, it would still be blocked. And then also the bug was fixed on Outlook, and like they like, I don't know what to call it, but I'd call it like ninja patched, kind of like how Chrome patches, where like if you rebooted your computer since March, Outlook patched itself. So I think Russia might just be out of touch with this one. The WinRare one, that one I think stuck around a little longer. I don't know how that's been addressed or fixed. But yeah, like Derek said, maybe just don't allow that on your network. I don't know.
Yeah, well, just RAR in general. I mean, there's generally not a good reason. I mean, why do you need RAR? Usually threat actors use RAR, at least historically in the past, because when you encrypted a RAR archive, you wouldn't be able to tell what was in it. You wouldn't be able to get a file listing, which isn't true for zip, right? If you encrypt a zip file, you can still get a listing of the files that are in there. So I would use RAR as an indication of something bad happening in my environment, but that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, clearly they think it's working, but again, this is Russia, so their tactics might be
guess-
out of date. I mean,
yeah,
have
that,
they
I
been
guess-
able to Google?
Yeah,
No.
and it depends on who you're attacking too, right? I mean, if you know they use it, then well, that's different.
True.
Yeah, they've been
It
able
looks
to
like
do this, right?
it looks like they're going after Polish Cyber Command.
Which has a paid
Classic.
for license of WinRAR, probably.
They're one of 3 organizations that.
They were the other ones.
So yeah, let's roll. Let's keep going. Let's keep talking about bad things, and then we'll maybe hopefully wrap up with some more happy things. So there's a new threat actor targeting the aerospace sector, and they call themselves AeroBlade. Is this like an anime thing that I don't know? Or
Yeah, I was thinking that and Beyblade. Yeah.
oh yeah, that must be what it's based on, Beyblade. So essentially, this is a campaign which was publicly disclosed by BlackBerry. The first wave was in September 2022, and then the second wave was in July 2023. They're spear phishing with weaponized documents, initial access, reverse shell. You've seen it all before. Honestly, I'm also just surprised. BlackBerry's security team, I mean, they exist. I didn't know that.
Didn't they buy Silence? Like,
I don't know.
BlackBerry bought Silence.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. So yeah, they have some documents. Obviously, these are docx attachment deploys remote template injection to download the second stage, which is a .m. Malicious macros, create a reverse shell. There's a little diagram. I don't know why the file names are blocked out with giant blue boxes. We'll just assume it's totally legit .docx. And then, yeah, it's a DLL. So, I mean, these are, I would say, pretty standard tactics. And I guess they also didn't disclose the targets, did they?
Yeah, that stuck out to me is that they don't disclose their targets. They're like, oh, it's targeting organizations in the United States aerospace sector. It's like, well, there's only so many, and Boeing just recently got hit, so it's probably one of those things to where it's just, as we see often, it's open season on a target. When somebody gets good hit on a target, they it's open season, and then people come out of the woodwork to go after them.
The attacker has been quoted as saying, "Let it rip." It's a Beyblade reference, I think.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think it is. Yeah, rip it like a Beyblade. I don't know.
All right, let's talk about a takedown. So apparently, and I'm just going to read this title because I don't really understand what is happening. Reuters takes down Blockbuster hacker for hire investigation after Indian court order. I'm sorry, what year is it?
Title.
What? Let's just okay. So I'm assuming reading the first part of the title, they've had Blockbuster. I don't think is the name brand in this case. I don't think Blockbuster. I don't think they're renting. I don't think they're renting a copy of Uncle Buck from 1996 or whatever. But basically, this is an investigation into an Indian hacker for hire operation, which Reuters disclosed, and they had to take it down. So I guess this would kind of suck to be an investigative journalist and put all this work into investigating hacker for hire ring and then have it be taken down or have it be asked to be taken down. So, yeah, I mean, an Indian court order is
The question is
right
why.
now. Yeah. So according to Reuters, they basically said there's no indication that the article
I saw
had.
that same article.
Yeah, that's very suspicious that if there's no errors, there's no known false reporting in it, why is it being forced to take down?
So, and also fun fact, of course, because it's the internet, it said here, it's on the Wayback Machine. And of course it's on the Wayback Machine, and I'll link it in Discord. So there it is. It's taken down. You can totally delete something from the internet. Don't worry about it. I mean, I guess I would say my total no information to back this up, but I'm curious, do you think maybe this is scooping the court system and would get the hackers, would give them sort of an early warning to shut down? Maybe it's an active surveillance thing where they're in their networks or they're in their environments watching, and then this would disclose that they were sort of being monitored or being tracked. I don't know.
Or an attorney has stepped forward and said there's data that is proprietary and confidential, and perhaps they feel they need to protect the organization that was hacked.
I'm also just, my mind is like kind of blown that a news organization can be ordered to take something down. Like, where is Reuters based? Aren't they like, is it, I want to say it's,
I think they're German, aren't they?
I was going to say, why is a company in Germany responding to a court order in India? I don't get it. Maybe it's only down in India. I mean, obviously,
It is the Indian court.
Right. I'm just surprised that like a German company is responding to an Indian court order. Like, I'm pretty sure if the Wall Street Journal wrote an article that says like Saudi Arabia is bad, and then Saudi Arabia was like, hey, you got to take that down, we'd just be like, no, like I don't, whatever. But
I mean, maybe they do business. They have a business interest, and so they would be compelled to act because of that.
Brian just pointed out that the article said routers identified a nation-state crew. Maybe the crew the article was about was the part of the government.
Yeah, maybe it was the nation-state of India.
Yeah. They could have reported against their own government here and didn't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's. I guess this is one, like, we don't have a lot of solid information right now, but this is one we'll keep an eye on and update people as it transpires, because it seems a lot of things are very confusing. Why would Reuters take it down? Why would Indian courts ask for it to be taken down? And, you know, why is it still obviously just for free on Wayback Machine? Because you can't just take something down like that. So
yeah, I was reading through the article, seeing if there is anything, you know, critical of, you know, government entities, or, you know, like was said, that it's, you know, some sort of, you know, nation state crew, because I'm just looking at the end of the article where, you know, BBC did a documentary critical of the country's prime minister, and then the authorities raided the broadcaster's office. Like, I'll read through like the Amnesty International why they were forced to shut down, but it could be that, you know, you're just touching something too hot with the, you know, criticizing government, that it's kind of a above the pay grade for the time being, which is why it would likely be temporarily taken down. And the, you know, look, you're causing a kerfuffle with people at a high tier.
Yeah, Shadow Ninja 85 in the chat says might lose their Indian visa for their reporters. Like, I also, it could be like a business interest thing, you know, like it's just interesting. Obviously these news organizations have a tough line to walk between doing investigative reporting that's obviously going to make some people angry, and also having access to the sources they need to be able to write journalistic articles. Right. So it's kind of a tough spot to be in. But yeah, I'm sure the, you know, reporter is well aware that it's the internet. You can't take something down, and it's more of a gesture than it is, you know, real.
So I was today years old when I realized that India is the largest democracy in the world right now.
By population? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Didn't know that.
India's definitely, I mean, they've taught me a lot about cybersecurity, that's for sure. Like, I mean, Indian YouTubers are basically the lifeblood of like any college student. Like, that's how you learn calculus. That's how you learn, like, that's how I learned calculus. I mean, they're legends.
And not just for the teaching, but you also have like those little like niche issues to where you're like, is there anybody out there that has, you know, integrated these two random things together? And it's like, oh, look, there's an Indian YouTuber that did exactly the thing that I was thinking of, and they have some excellent instructions for it. So
it is amazing. Yeah, it seriously is amazing. So, so I guess, does anyone have any other? Oh, we should talk about the LogoFAIL attack. So I guess the question is, have you ever wished that you could have your logo in your motherboard or your like firmware of your BIOS? Because if you have, then you might be one of the researchers who discovered essentially an attack in the ability to inject a malicious file into firmware on Linux and Windows devices. So this is like a boot sequence thing. You know, LogoFAIL is a pretty good name, but basically it's a mass disclosure. That 3 scary words, right? Coordinated mass disclosure. Basically, all participating companies comprise nearly the entirety of the x64 and ARM CPU ecosystem, starting with UEFI suppliers, AMI, Insight, and Phoenix. device manufacturers such as HP, Lenovo, Dell, and then CPU makers Intel and AMD. So
That sounds like all the computers.
it sounds like
Yeah.
all the computers. So basically the hardware sellers have the ability to configure a logo on the device like boot process, right? Like my personal gaming computer, when I boot it, it doesn't say Microsoft or Windows, it says ASRock or whatever, which is the manufacturer of the motherboard. So that apparently feature is vulnerable. The image parsers in these UFIs from all of them are riddled with vulnerabilities that no one's ever noticed. Basically, all you have to do is replace the legitimate looking logo or the legitimate logo with a crafted exploit. So I guess it's tricky. I'm also terrified because if you've ever gone to like a firmware update website, they never look very reputable.
Oh, they
Like, they're always just like a mirror, and there's like one button that says click here if you're in China, and you don't click that, you click the other one, and then it says download firmware, and then you download just like a sketchy zip file, and it definitely has like one of those like installer wizard things. It's never good.
Yeah, you
So I
Google
guess,
the
like-
hash, you don't get a hit, and you're like, oh crap, right? I don't know, man. YOLO, right? I need this motherboard to work.
Yeah, I mean, but how many people are like applying firmware updates to their motherboards? I'm sitting here going like,
All
when
the
was the last time I
security
even like thought
folks.
about doing that? Like applying a firmware update to my motherboard. I'm like, if there ain't nothing wrong, like I'm not.
That's some
I haven't done
executive
that.
thinking. Don't update it and you can't be vulnerable. I like it.
Well, that's why things don't get updated. It's working, right?
Well, and
Yeah.
a lot of organizations, that's where it will be for like doing something like upgrading the firmware. Like unless you're getting like mass blue screens that are fixed by a firmware update, they're not going to go. They're likely not going to sign off on the what happens.
No,
if
because I can
firmware
get
update
5
goes
more
wrong?
frames
Like,
per second. I can
Yeah.
get 5 more frames per second in Roblox, and that's worth it.
Oh yeah, for gamers, absolutely. And
Yeah. I mean, for gamers, the only people who would really be updating their UEFI BIOS as like a normal workflow would be like the gaming community or like power user, whatever you want to call them. People that are interested in overclocking, maximizing performance, and crypto miners, other, power users. So I guess like for enterprise though, I mean, does anyone have an enterprise example of like BIOS updates? Like, is that even a thing, or do we it seems like bad not to update it, but you're right. I don't think many companies are doing that.
I've only seen it when there were just some widespread blue screens, and they
Right.
Work with the vendor, and they say, hey, it's because of like this this problem on like the driver or power, something with power and drivers, and it just didn't load right. And then when the AV was trying to hook in, it caused problems. So they're like, hey, do this firmware update. And again, that was a lot of the risk appetite for an organization going, okay, are we doing firmware updates for a whole slew of laptops? And hey, what happens if we update, one of these executive laptops that's getting these blue screens and we brick that laptop? Like, what do we do then? It's absolutely a rarity. And this also reminds me, like, I don't know where the tweet is that I found recently, but they were talking about how a majority of vulnerabilities these days are either in like the category of your computer's online, somebody sends you a specially crafted message and now they have power of attorney, or it's one of these vulnerabilities to where it's like if they get physical access to it and they do like a clone copy of your SSD and then freeze it a certain way and run these certain things, they can make it so that your password is 12 bits closer to being cracked. And
I got you. If you have physical access,
if you're already at the access to where it's like you can update the boot logo on a piece of firmware, I'm like, there are a lot of other things you're gonna be doing
you're not
instead.
wrong, but the supply chain angle is significant here, right? Like these BIOS websites, like I personally don't have any idea how I would confirm whether a malicious BIOS update or UEFI firmware update was like malicious or not. Like I guess run it through VirusTotal or something, but like the people, 90% of the people, it's going to be like, hey, I was playing Roblox, my computer blue screened, I Googled my manufacturer and BIOS update, and I clicked on the first link and I downloaded the file and I ran it.
Yeah.
To be fair, you could just get traditional malware that way too. But like the concept of like boot, what are they called? Boot kits or something. Then you like, there's a whole supply chain thing there of like, now this is there. You can't fix it with reimaging. It's probably not in standard IR practices to like reimage the motherboard or, check the UEFI firmware. It's not probably within like the scope of what most people, I think it's just going to lead to like large gaming botnets are going to arise from this potentially.
Possibly, or, way to, target developers, et cetera, to where, hey, if you have a, LastPass developer that's running everything off of a Plex server, target them with an email that says, hey, your Plex server will run like 20% better if you apply this particular firmware update.
Sure.
And then,
people are commenting.
And
yeah. I mean, people are commenting like, oh, you can check, whether it came from the manufacturer. Probably most of the people doing this, like even me personally, some of the BIOS update sites I've seen don't at all look affiliated with the manufacturer. At least they're not very modern or secure looking. It's like last updated 2010 kind of vibe. So it can be tricky to verify whether the site, obviously go to the manufacturer's main website, look up your hardware number or serial or whatever. But yeah, basically just verify it, before applying updates if you're worried about this. So only apply something that is good. All right. What's next? Anyone have an article they're super passionate about? One of my personal fears was like kind of validated. The 23andMe breach. Did anyone see this?
Oh yeah.
I saw that one, and I think that was on our docket for last week.
Yeah, so I've always been curious, like what kind of extremely pale person am I? But honestly, I have always been too terrified because like you're submitting genetic data to a third party, right? At the end of the day, so essentially, 23andMe announced on last Friday, that hackers accessed, they specifically call it 0.1% of our customers, or 14,000 people, able to access profile information. So I guess like my question here is, if it's such a small data chunk, was it an actual breach or was it just like customer account takeovers? Like, does anyone know the details on this?
So didn't they say like all the amounts were, that they stole ancestry data on like 6.9 million?
Yeah, it ended up turning out it was 6.9 million affected.
Yeah, so and that's where I looked at it from last week, because we were talking about the Okta that was like, well, it's 1% of our customers. Actually, it's 100% of our customers. And now you have 23andMe, like, they say, oh, it's only 0.1% of customers. Oh, actually, it's 6.9 million affected.
So it was the additional group was the 5.5 additional million people who opted into their DNA relatives feature, which allows customers to automatically share some of their data with others. So it basically data included name, birth year, relationship labels, which I assume is like daughter, brother, etc. Mm-hmm. Percentage of DNA shared with relatives, ancestry reports, and self-reported location. I guess it's not that bad. I guess my worst fear is actually that genetic material or genetic like indicators are disclosed, right? That's like, talk about something you can't change. That's like the ultimate biometric disaster.
Please rotate your genome every 90 days.
There's more to it, Corey, too.
Yeah.
It's 1.4 of those people, 1.4 million of those people had their family tree profiles accessed, which also goes on to give more information of display names, who they're related to, birth years of those people, and a little bit of information.
But as an OSINT fan, I can already look all that stuff up on Ancestry.
You can, but this gives access to the lazier people even easier.
And let me add something here. Let's not forget about victims of domestic abuse. You're in a situation where you're trying to hide your identity, and not everybody is an OSINT whiz. If all of a sudden, let's say I have a predisposition for some sort of genetic bad disease and I'm a victim of domestic violence and I'm trying to hide from an aggressor, and all of a sudden the whole OSINT map is now displayed very easily. Here's this relative, that third cousin. I have no anonymity or privacy anymore.
Don't opt into the share my profile with others feature when you do 23andMe, I guess is
the answer. Don't get stuck.
Yeah. And it's a breach for sure. I don't want to downplay it. So it's definitely breaches are like this, where yes, you could find this information via OSINT, but this does significantly make it easier to search through, and potentially there could be some people which have put in a lot of effort into taking their public information down, and then this opens it back up. So like in those examples of domestic abuse or other information that people are trying to keep private. Yeah. So by the way, though, just to sort of wrap this up, this breach is a great example. And I tell my customers this all the time. This is not actually 23andMe's fault. Well, it's not actually they didn't get breached. Their customer accounts got breached. So this is basically credential stuffing and public password reuse. So like these are things that we have talked about like many times. Don't reuse passwords. Don't share your details between different sites. And then on the other angle, like I have a blog on Black Hills. It's about information stealer malware. Like if you, it is kind of within, and I will say this is where our customers do it. We provide our customers with data sources, and we tell them to go reset their accounts. So like 23andMe, what they should be doing is using a company like us or others to get the list of breached customer accounts or reused accounts, check it against their database, and then reset all the accounts that are vulnerable. That's pretty standard nowadays. And like looking at the data sets, there's pretty much no vendor you can find that doesn't have their customer data exposed in some way from these information stealer malware, because the data sets are huge. We're talking about like, billions, probably 20 million victims or more computers, and each of those computers could have multiple different logins saved or other data saved. So it's like they weren't actually breached, but they failed to protect their customers from their own breaches, if that makes sense.
Corey, can I add one other thing? I agree with what you're saying 100%. I want to add a bit more humanity to this conversation, as well as the technical piece of it. If you go and look further in that article, they're talking about information about particular ethnic groups being harvested and sold. That concerns me. There's already enough strife and ill feelings in the world. We don't need more targeting of ethnic groups. The other thing, if let's say you did participate in 23andMe, and I have a friend who found out that he's got 7 half brothers. He had no idea. And he's my age or a little bit older. And so there's a psychological stress that from the 23andMe breach that I don't think we necessarily have the same burden in other breaches. All breaches are stressful, but when you start exposing ethnic groups, relationships, locations of domestic abuse victims, there's a whole different component of psychological stress that we have to acknowledge.
Sure. I mean, that's terrible. Like, of course, people are going to take data breaches and search for whatever particular information they're interested in, right? But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like 23andMe definitely, the protection comes down to acknowledging how much sensitive data they have, right? Which I'm sure they are aware, but just, protecting that data a little bit further. Of all the customers that should be putting, or all the, companies that should be putting like their customer account privacy at like the very top notch of their corporate security ladder. Like, if someone breaches my Spotify account, okay, maybe they can get my playlists or whatever. Like, it's not that big of a deal to me. Someone breaches my 23andMe account, that is a huge, like, it has everything in there, right? Like you said, my family members, my genetic potential diseases, like, and all this stuff, to bring in the regulatory side, like ethnic information is like GDPR high private, it's like considered sensitive data in GDPR. So it's like, this is big bad for 23andMe for sure. They should be protected. MFA and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm waiting for more of just to see if more of that information comes out, that the extent of what was gathered. And I shared, because in the original story, there were a lot of posts referencing the dark web post of all this. And the dark web post I can't find the one that actually showed all like the CSV columns, to where they had like different ones for like the YDNA or all sorts of column headings that were concerning. The one that I was able to find, the seller, the person that is distributing the breach data, says that there's the origin estimation, phenotype and health information, photos and identification data, raw data, which raw data sounds like that could be a lot. And one of the things that springs to mind with raw data is when this was, I believe the raw data was something that you can grab, download, and you can move that to other DNA analysis tools. You just upload that raw data. So when they sit there and they say, oh, all of this like genomes and all of these specific details aren't there, I'm like, what's in that raw data? Because it sounds like there's a lot in that raw data to be able to find things that if 23andMe won't tell you about your predisposition to being lactose intolerant, well, another DNA analysis site might.
And there's open ones too.
Yep.
Yeah, there's like open
grab the raw
source
data,
yeah.
move it over, and just have it analyzed by the open source. So I'm kind of waiting for like another shoe to drop there. I know we keep saying waiting for the other shoe to drop, which from this it went from the 1% of people to
it already kind of did.
Yeah, it already did. So I'm like, so how many different shoes are we waiting to drop
This
here?
is the second shoe on many shoes.
Yeah,
the article Griffin InfoSec put up does have a picture of like that CSV style you were talking about.
Okay, that's what
that's
one of the things I was looking for.
Well, yeah, a lot of the comment or a lot of the, I can't tell if it's the columns that are censored or if it's the actual data, but
and this was one that data. That was fantastic because I'm like, okay, everybody like the reports that you need to come together and agree on what part of the image you're blurring, because it doesn't really do anything if one post blurs out this part of it and another post blurs out the other part of it. Because if you start reading enough articles, you're like, oh, I know the whole thing that they were trying to blur out.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure like they definitely need to be taking better steps to protect their customer accounts, especially from like, it's tough though, because from a scoping perspective, it's like, do we try to credential stuff our own customers? Like, do we like try to, I mean, it's like from a pen testing perspective, like if 23andMe hired me to do a pen test, I would probably ask them during the scoping call, do you want me to go after customer information? And I almost guarantee you they would say no. This is very common. Like, you know, almost all of our customers will tell us, don't go after our customers' information because it's like not really part of the normal security sphere, right? But at the end of the day, that is their crown jewel, right? Like trying to credential stuff and look at breach credentials or look at, stealer logs, searching for their customers and then forcing MFA or password resets or just like having detections for that kind of thing is probably what they should be focused on more than like the traditional security side of like, well, can you guess your way into a corporate account or can you guess your way into it's just every provider that has a large amount of customer data that they hold needs to be aware of this, especially when it's genetic health data, etc. So
yeah. And I mean, just the adage of like companies saying red team us like an attacker would, and then not like that.
Don't SIM swap us. This hurts.
Not like that. Yeah. Just...
And people posted in the chat as well that they've apparently now updated their terms of use. So essentially they're basically trying to get ahead of it from a legal perspective and block a class action. Whether it will be effective or not, I guess we'll find out. We'll probably talk about it on the show, but it definitely is not a good look. It's not a good look. And to be fair, I think privacy-minded people would never even consider using these services, right? But your family members could do it Yeah.
That's what I was going to answer that second half of the sentence there. That it's like you might not, but your family members will. That it's like your mom just doxed you on Facebook.
Everyone go out, ask your family members, did you use 23andMe? If the answer is yes, ask, what was your password? It needs to be better. Whatever it wasn't good enough. I mean, or MFA. Like, it's crazy to me that a company like this wouldn't require MFA. Like, I don't know.
And if people are using the same, like, I know I've signed up for websites where they make you change your password and you can never reuse the same passwords. Like, why is a company like this not using something like that?
Yeah, no, this is very standard. Anyone can purchase or even for free find like a database of publicly breached passwords and just not allow you to sign up with those passwords. Like, it's not rocket science to do. But it does, what it does is it potentially prevents customers from signing up for your account. It potentially blocks you from making money. If you go to sign up for an account and it says you can't use that password, you're going to be like, I'll just use whatever the competitor is, or whatever. So it's tough. I'm it's not a good time. We need our resident in the chat to post a job posting for 23andMe, hiring senior security engineer.
I haven't seen him today.
Focused on GDPR, privacy, and yeah.
Hey, so I just want to add one other thing to the conversation, because this is such a juicy one. So some of the analysis on what was brought up about changing the terms and conditions. One of the questions is, we mentioned that they weren't using MFA. There's scuttlebutt that because they didn't use MFA, that they were actually negligent. And we all know that that's a big word when it comes to the court systems.
Yep.
Well, that would be an interesting precedent to set, right? That if you're not using MFA, then you're negligent. Like that.
If you're not using MFA, I would agree. If you're protecting health information, although I will say you're right, it's a lot.
I'm saying that's a huge. If that ends up being the case, it ends up being pretty huge because then, I
well, but it's vulnerable to class action, right? So we know that class action lawsuits are expensive to set up, and I always get my 63 cents, and it's super exciting. But yeah, like I definitely think that this would be an interesting. We'll keep an eye. Stay tuned. Stay subscribed or whatever, because I'm sure that we'll be talking about this one for a while. And if it does go to class action, definitely I think it'll be a one to watch. But I don't know what the payout to the class victims. I guess just money. It's always money. You can get $20 or 2 more DNA testing kits for your brother and sister.
That's all most people want, is just free stuff,
Yeah.
And then they find out that their brother or sister really isn't their brother or sister.
There you go, Corey.
I'm back. 23andMe job posting. Entry-level cybersecurity professional on site. 8+ years of experience in access. 12+ years of experience with AI leverage SIM/SOAR. Experience with MFA optional. $12.
Seems legit.
Oh, man. That's so funny.
That hurts.
Yes. Thank you for being a recurring guest on our show. So
thank you, Rizza.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, do we have any positive news to end
I was
with
looking
today?
for one. All I saw was human trafficking, not positive.
There's never positive news in cybersecurity on a Monday.
No, I got to keep scrolling. I'll find something. Warning about the critical use of Bluetooth trackers. That just sounds sad.
I mean,
cars are harvesting your data. No, that's not good. Oh, okay. I got one. Facebook Messenger has rolled out end-to-end encryption by default. So I guess that's a little positive thing.
We're scraping it here.
No, that's actually a big deal. That's a big deal, I would say. I think I think we, as an industry, when end-to-end encryption rolls out at scale, and it's like iMessage is a great example of this, right? For years and years and years, iMessage has been by default much more secure than SMS because it's end-to-end encrypted. And now this rolling out to Facebook Messenger, this is a game changer. Because I'm sure the numbers of people that use Facebook Messenger is absolutely insane. So this is now additional privacy protection for those people. For those that don't know, end-to-end encryption is essentially so there's data encryption, but that's in the modern era is typically based on public key, private key infrastructure, which essentially means Facebook has the ability to decrypt your data. So if I send a message to you on Facebook, I can read it, you can read it, and then also Facebook can read it because it was encrypted with their key. End-to-end encryption basically cuts Facebook out of that equation. So now it's just I can read it, and then any recipients can also read it, but Facebook can't read it. So what it means is that if Facebook servers are compromised, or if the network in the middle is compromised somehow with some kind of certificate attacks, or if there's surveillance happening, cough, 3-letter agencies, all that stuff is now basically off. They can't sniff it. So essentially, it's just encryption for the masses, right? We've all been able to do this for years with Pigeon or whatever, OTR and Signal, and iMessage is encrypted. But having this be for a large group of people on Facebook that probably otherwise don't even know what encryption is, this is a positive thing.
Yeah,
You're right.
I am kind of scraping, but
yeah.
It's good.
The human trafficking one was actually kind of positive because it's about them all getting arrested.
Okay. Let's end with that. Let's end with that. The picture just kind of was. Really
it does
creepy.
look creepy. But
The picture is just like I guess a shower curtain with like some hands behind it. I don't know. Very creepy.
It's like zombies at Halloween, right?
Yeah.
Positive. We're supposed to end positive.
Okay, stay positive. So,
positive.
okay. Operation Stormmakers 2 involved law enforcement from 27 countries in Asia, as well as Africa, the Middle East, and South America, led to the arrest of 281. Oh my God, that's so many people on suspicion of human trafficking, passport forgery, corruption, telecoms fraud, sexual exploitation, and other offenses. 149 victims were identified, and 360 new investigations were opened. So essentially this is, I mean, there's a bunch of cases spread across all different jurisdictions, but apparently 40 Malaysian victims were lured to Peru. Ugandans were flown to Dubai for a non-existent job. Accountants from India were lured to Asia to participate in online fraud. It's just so much terrible things was now discovered, uncovered, and will be investigated. So, I mean, the numbers are insane. 281 people were arrested. That is so many. That's got to do a significant amount of damage to like those criminal rings that are running.
Yeah, it'll break apart those rings.
That's definitely hurt somebody bad.
Yeah, and it is, stories that are often seen, and even in stateside, where somebody gets that offer of to be plugged into something that they need. So in this instance, it was, hey, you have some like lucrative job offers, and they fall for that. And I think I spoke like a few weeks ago that the communications where there's somebody that they're struggling with their homework or they're struggling with home life, and they have that contact saying, hey, here's some better options for you. It's like, hey, why don't you come stay with me for a while? Come do this. And then they wind up in a bad situation and go, either go missing or go, in this instance, go human trafficking. So certainly encouraging people to just like stay, connected and and have that network so that hopefully people don't just, fade away. Keep checking in on people.
Well, let's focus on there's 149 victims. I think that is just the tip of the iceberg, because if we get an opportunity to talk with the victims, find out a little more information, save these poor people from a life of wretchedness, that is a positive thing. I think that we mentioned 149 victims in this case. There are thousands of victims we don't know about yet.
And they said there are 360 more cases they're opening off of this alone. So who knows how many more that can turn into, how many more people that can lead to arresting. And I saw somebody point out 281 is probably nothing in the grand scheme of things. When it actually comes to these human trafficking rings, that 281 people could actually be a huge chunk of it. And if they're the right people, that can seriously hurt those organizations.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like there's huge numbers of people that are going missing or being trafficked every year. I think somewhere in like the tens of thousands. I saw one of like 30,000 a year, and it's probably much more than that. So yeah, 281 versus the tens of thousands that are impacted by this. You're looking at it numerically, it's small, but everyone can be just that initial crack that brings the whole thing down, that you just apply enough damage to the problem and it starts to crumble.
Yeah,
and so I'm always enthusiastic whenever I see like any of these cases get
I mean, let's not downplay the value of even just those 160 people. That's 100, like Kelly said, that's 160 people that would have been living really crappy situations that now hopefully will be living in better situations. And then when you start spidering out from there, these are probably, since they're international organizations, right? These are probably large rings of like, each person has a minor part in the crime, then it adds up to a much larger crime. So like getting each person and saying, okay, tell me everything you know. Okay, tell me everything you know. And then you start to trace down these chains of like, well, who's the head honcho or who's the what, like, where does this roll up to? And I think that like the other thing, and I know we're going over time, but the other thing I really thought was weird in the article is they talk about like cyber scam centers, which this isn't a concept I was previously familiar with, but it's like you are promised a lucrative job, you fly to a country, and then you end up basically working in like a scam call center or other like, telecoms fraud is the one. It's like, I mean, that's like some kind of like Black Mirror type of like dystopian reality. It's like I flew for this awesome job. Turns out I'm actually like forced to be in this call center. They took my passport a week ago. Like, is there like a horror movie about this or documentaries? Because this is like sounds so terrifying to be
There's
like
definitely movies with that same theme, and unfortunately, it's reality, like you just said. Like,
it's like imagine that like you fly somewhere, they're like, hey, we need to take your passport for your job interview, then you don't have a passport so you can't leave, and then you're just like forced to call people endlessly and like try to get them to install Microsoft updates.exe. I mean, that's crazy. Like it also brings into question, like sometimes when scammers or other people would call you, you would be like, let's go after them, but then it turns out like they're just like puppets of another criminal organization. Like it's it's tough. But at least we have organizations like Interpol like figuring out how to take these down. And I mean, that's a huge coordinated effort, and I feel like every country should be participating in this, right? Like wherever it goes, wherever it came from, wherever it goes, like get these people out of our
and I think
society.
an important thing to call out, because I see this in the comments, but I think I've also seen this in the documentaries and the movies, is that a lot of people watch those documentaries and movies and go, hey, that's a horrible thing that's happening somewhere else in the world and not in my area. No, this is happening where you're at too.
For sure.
I mean, I've worked with local law enforcement here that they have to set up booths at a at a farmer's market for human trafficking, and I'm like, human trafficking, you have to have them reach out to you. Like in my little county in the U.S., like, yeah, it happens everywhere. So I think it's at the different degrees to where it's not always just sexual exploitation, but also just that that call center exploitation as well for human trafficking. So it is a very big problem all over the place, all over.
The Wire did a whole season about it in Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where like it only requires someone who can take advantage of a specific group of people in any place in the world, right? Like it doesn't like, it's not like being in the US or being in another like, developed or whatever you want to call it country gets you out of being susceptible to it, right? Like because of undocumented individuals or because of people in any country, it's all it takes is a person running one of these rings, and yeah, it can happen anywhere.
And let me add, I know we're wrapping things up. We can do something. We talk about using our oaths and skills, but I know we see the stickers on the doors and bathroom stalls at airports or perhaps at malls. If you see something out of the ordinary, if you see a child, a young woman, a young man who looks uncomfortable, is trying to get your attention, say something, ask a question, go find somebody to talk to, because we do have the ability to make a difference.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, obviously, Alex and others are involved heavily in like the, OSINT for good or, Trace Lab stuff, which is really focused around, obviously human trafficking is a huge focus of that in addition to like normal, crime activity. But yeah, I mean, like, you're right. Like when you're in person, there have been moments in my life where I've seen things that just kind of make the hair on the back of your neck go up, and you're just like, that doesn't seem right. Like that feels abusive, or it feels like you'll know. Like it's funny how you have this like subconscious part of your brain that tells you when something's like really wrong. So anytime you experience that, like it's time to say something or record, pull out your phone, or or do whatever you feel you can do to impact the situation. So I mean, it's like we together can stop this, or can help. So I guess that's a positive enough note to end on. Anyone have any closing thoughts?
Well, Brian brought up in the chat, there are hand signals, and the hand signals is American Sign Language, HELP. So yeah, it'll take you 10 seconds to learn the hand signals. And Brian, if you have a link to the website or a place, that would be super helpful for the Discord community.
All right. Yeah, and I mean, have a good week. Stay safe, everyone. And yeah, thanks for coming.